spokesperson for drug policy reform and solicitation laws.
Sure. Sounds good.
Well, hi everybody. Thank you very much. Well, as you can see, we've had a lot of elections. What is it, 4 and 5 years or something? And won't be one, at least over the summer. But first of all, I just want to say I too came from Ottawa, so I'm kind of still on the Ottawa time zone. But I'm really glad to be here today because I think the fact that the Vancouver Change Camp is happening today is really, really timely because I think probably some of you know that the CRTC and the full outline of that is up on the wall are beginning hearings in July on the whole question of net neutrality. And I took a look at their press release when I was on the plane. And this is what they say. They really make out, I mean, first of all, the CRTC has had a sort of a policy of hands-off, right, that this is not an issue they should be involved in, which is why we're here organizing and debating today. And in their press release back in March, they said, they talk about internet services have made it possible for Canadians to use new applications, certain ISPs maintain that this growth in traffic can cause congestion, especially during peak times. This has led to some ISPs to manage the flow of traffic on their networks or adopt new business models. And this made me really mad because they're really trying to pass this over as sort of an administrative, technical issue. And it isn't. It's a public policy issue. It's a political issue. Because I think, as we're all aware, the openness of the internet, the neutrality of the internet, something that we, have come to know as people engage with it, is now threatened because of the throttling that's going on. And as I was on the plane today, I tried to think about it in terms of, more historical context. And it made me think of public libraries. A century ago, or even a decade ago, public libraries were the place where most people got their information. Public libraries are free. They are in Vancouver. And they were designed that way. It didn't happen by accident. It was a public policy decision. And I always remember, because I used to be on the library board here, talking to the head librarian, Eileen Tufts, who was a wonderful woman, and she always said, public libraries are so important. And we were talking about the Carnegie Library at Main and Hastings, which is just a few blocks from here. And she said, it doesn't matter whether you live in Shaughnessy or you live in the downtown east side, you have a right to go into the library and to be received as a citizen and to have access to information. And that was a philosophy because the librarians brought that forward, and it was adopted by the city and this whole network. That's what we're facing here. We're looking at the internet and the access to the internet, not just in terms of different websites and who can go faster or slower, but also in terms of questions of political debate and openness. I mean, we've got Rabble, we've got Tyee, we've got all kinds of alternative media that are on the internet that may take up a fair amount of space. If they get shut down, or if they get slowed down because of what these huge telecoms are doing, purely for their sort of political profit reasons, then this is a huge public policy issue. So the fact that the CRTC is holding these hearings beginning in July is very, very important. The other thing, somebody did mention that Charlie Angus, who's our digital affairs critic, I think we're the only party who has such a person, has introduced a private members bill. And Charlie's bill is very, very simple. It basically changes the Telecommunications Act and makes it clear that net neutrality has to be enforced by the CRTC. So it's a very straightforward bill. The other thing I wanted to do, just in terms of context, is that while we're talking about net neutrality and trying to stop throttling, the Conservative government is, even as we speak, moving forward with new bills that would, for example, bring in a much greater police presence on the internet. There were 2 new bills that were introduced. I don't remember the number of them. But the Privacy Commissioner in Ottawa, Jennifer Stoddard, who's a really excellent person, back in February was warning of this and said this is the beginning of mass surveillance. Those are the words that she used. So this is an officer of the House, a commissioner of the House of Commons. So these bills that were introduced on Thursday and will be coming up in September would provide much greater power and would force internet service providers to pay fees to bring in new equipment. It could affect a lot of the smaller guys to allow their sites to be intercepted for so-called security reasons. This has huge implications for civil society. So when we take this on, I would say that the best thing to do is to get behind Charlie Angus's bill. And if we're talking about what we need to do, the most important thing is to get through to your member of parliament. This is also an issue about engaging with the political process and not being afraid to do that. And letting your member of parliament. I remember a few years ago there was a rumour that people would be charged for using the internet for emails. We had thousands and thousands and thousands of emails in Ottawa. It was unbelievable. So the power of the internet to actually mobilize people, of course, is something that we know. And so we've now got to use this in a way to A, stop the throttling, B, make sure there is a national strategy for the internet in terms of neutrality, and make sure that the CRTC does its job. Thanks.
Okay, so our final presenter is Jason LaMarche. Jason, you can either come up here or stay there. It's up to you. Okay. Jason LaMarche is the producer and host of the popular online video series Liberal Minute. Jason's tech background dates back to 1998 when he first started blogging and building HTML websites. Since then, he has become a prolific social networker and has used his online profiles to promote network neutrality. Jason is also a community organizer and has successfully used the web to produce various offline events and campaigns. Where were you when we were organizing this? We needed you. Jason studies business and political science at UBC.
Thanks. Okay, so there was a lot of good introductions here, and first of all, thank you, Steve, for inviting me. It's a great honor to actually be here and to discuss this issue. It's really important to me. I've been talking about it with certain people online for a couple of years now, but this campaign has let me know that actually a lot of people still don't know about network neutrality. And now that the stage is set in terms of what's led up to where we are today, a couple things I'd like to add is some of the political things that are happening across the world. For example, we're talking about network neutrality, and I was watching a lot of the YouTube videos from, say, the Toronto Town Hall discussion, and the angles and perspectives seem to be coming very much from regulating private corporations, and there wasn't so much discussion around public accountability. And that was concerning to me because when I look at what's happening right now, we see a bit of situations, concerning situations unfolding in Iran and in China regarding suppression and government-controlled servers and websites. And we see people that want to express their political beliefs are using tools like Twitter, and they're using all sorts of high-tech ways of communicating with the outside world just to get their ideas out there. I think that's important, because my definition of network neutrality isn't just so much the private control of the pipes, but also are our freedoms and is our use of the internet being compromised on either end, either on the private end or on the public end. And I think if we're going to truly enjoy an authentic experience of network neutrality, we need explicit commitments from our government that says we are going to support this. And that's why I'm very proud of Mark Garneau for coming out this week and specifically stating the Liberal Party does explicitly endorse network neutrality. I think that's a good step in the right direction.